Welcome to our tutorial on media file management. In this tutorial we're going to learn how to set up a file system for developing multimedia. Our objectives for this lesson is to understand the importance of file management for multimedia development. We're actually going to build a file system on our computer, and then we're going to utilize that file system to back up media projects. So the first thing we want to do is create a folder for the basis of our media project. So I'm going to start with the folder, and I'm going to name this IX542 Project 1. So this gives it a name that we can recognize quickly, using this course as a example. So we have our base project file here. And what we're going to do is open up this main folder, and we're going to create a file system within this main folder. The first thing I like to do is, because we use a lot of different pieces of media within a multimedia project, is I build a folder called Assets. And this Assets folder is where we're going to keep all of the different types of files that we're going to use within our multimedia project. What kind of files do we use? Good question. Within that Assets folder, I'm going to make some new folders now. Some things that we use, certainly pictures. So I always make a file called pics. Other things we might need are videos. So let's make a video folder. And excuse my poor typing skills. Next, we'll create a folder for audio, because certainly in narration, sound effects, all of those things are possible. So since all those things are possible, within that audio folder, I'm going to create some new folders. So one will be, let's say, narration. Let's create another folder for sound effects, certainly a possibility. And of course, music. Often a production is not complete without music. Now if we go backwards, basically we have a project folder, IX542 Project 1. And within this, we have an Assets folder with audio, pics, video. So this is a good basic setup to get started with. Now, since moving forward I'm going to use this file folder in our tutorials and demonstrations, I'm going to go to my pics folder, and over here I have saved a file that I'm going to use later on. It's called Copyright Logo, and I'm going to drop that in my pics folder. So you can see how we're starting to build this file system. I have the assets. There's my picture that I'm going to use later. Just so you can see how we're going to build this base project. Now suppose I wanted to create a PowerPoint project in here. I could open PowerPoint, since we will actually be doing this. And I'm just going to choose a basic PowerPoint layout here. We'll go with this basic blue one right here. We'll choose that. And now when I want to save this so that everything will follow it within that file system, I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to put anything in here yet. I'll do that later. But I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to do PowerPoint File, Save As. And I'm going to go navigate to that folder, which is on my desktop. Normally I don't leave it on my desktop. I'm putting it on desktop for presentation purposes. Usually I'll put this deeper in my file system, but in a place where I know where it is. And I'm going to go ahead and save that right under the IX542 Project 1 file. And I will name this, I'll give it the same name, IX542 Project 1. And I'll save that. So now we're ready to go. So anytime I use this, if I want to go and import something to my PowerPoint, for instance, say I want to insert that image that I saved earlier, I can go to Photo, Picture from File, and I know within this IX542 project in the Assets Pics folder, there's that image that I saved, right? So there it is. So everything's right where I can find it, everything's right where I need it, and that makes it simple for us to be prepared to work on our project as far as our file system goes. Another important part of multimedia production is backing up your project. Now, in the case where you have a lot of assets in there in your project, if something gets misplaced, then all of a sudden you have a hole in your project. An image gets misplaced, like that copyright image, suddenly it's on the desktop and not in that file structure anymore. It's not going to show up because PowerPoint looks for the file within that structure. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is back up our files. When we're working with multimedia, having one file on your computer is bad. In the case that something should happen to your computer or your hard drive, all of a sudden you've lost all that hard work that you've done. So you always want to back up your projects. By building a file structure like this, it makes backing up your project really easy. I have on my computer here, I have a Dropbox file, and I'm going to use this as an example as to where I can back up this particular project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Dropbox here. I can drag and drop, or in the case of the Mac and the Dropbox, it tends to want to move it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to copy this project, IX542 Project 1. I'm going to copy that entire folder so that when I come over here to the Dropbox and I paste it, I can see here's my original still on the desktop where I put it, and now I have a backup copy right here, and it's exactly the same project. So there's my pic with the copyright logo. Okay, there's my assets folder, audio, pics, and it's IX542. So I got the exact same file structure, everything's moved. Now if I take it off of Dropbox and I put it on a computer somewhere else, that file structure will stay in place. So when I open my PowerPoint project, everything will work. That's the idea behind it. We always want to make sure that our projects are well defined as far as the file structure and file management goes. That way when we move from computer to computer, we can make sure that everything stays intact. And that's our tutorial on media file management.